salinization and boost soil productivity. And there couldn't have been a better authority to x-ray this theme than the distinguished Professor Jibrin Mohammed Jibrin of Bayero University, Kano. This man standing before you all is the current director, Center for Dryland Agriculture, Bayero University, Kano. Under his leadership, under his dynamic leadership, the center today enjoys the support of World Bank as a center of excellence. Annually, this center receives and trains postgraduate students from different countries in Africa. It has won over $20 million US through competitive grants for research and development. As a professor, he professes with over 70 articles published in peer-reviewed journals internationally, regionally, and nationally. He is a soil scientist and a fellow of the Soil Science Society of Nigeria. He is a member, Soil Science Society of America. He is also a member, Crop Science Society of America. He is a member of the Technical Advisory Group of DFID-funded linked projects empowering economic growth in northern Nigeria. He serves as a member of the research panel of experts, acting as an expert backstop in implementation of research action in 5 irrigation schemes under the World Bank trimming project. Professor Jibrin Mohammed Jibrin obtained his doctoral degree at Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, Nigeria. Representative of the Honorable Minister for Agriculture and Rural Development, the chairman and moderator of today's session, the registrar of NISS, and also a member of the United Nations Intergovernmental Technical Panel on Soils, invited guests, President, Soil Science Society of Nigeria, ladies and gentlemen, students present here, gentlemen of the press, permit me to present to you this academic giant, Professor Jibrin Mohammed Jibrin, who will present to us the lead paper on the theme of the 2021 World Soil Day titled Halt Soil Salinization, Boost Soil Productivity. Please join me and put our hands together as we welcome Professor Jibrin to come to the podium to make this presentation. Can we put our hands better, much better than that?
You don't shift to.
The representative of the Honorable Minister, the Registrar, NISS, distinguished senior colleagues, students present here, ladies and gentlemen of the press. It is a great honor for me to be invited to make this presentation today. I'm also particularly delighted that there is quite a number of young students invited to participate in this occasion. Even though I didn't hear the MC's welcome or acknowledge them, but I think passing the message to these young people is what will safeguard the future of our soils. For, like one of my former directors said a couple of days during a meeting, that in this journey, some of us are already approaching the departure launch. So the hope for change is with the younger ones. So you are welcome, and I hope you will listen attentively and get the message and participate in changing the narrative of our soils. I'm going to try to make my presentation along these lines. I will talk generally about sustainable soil management and the attainment of the Millennium Development Goals. Then I will talk about the causes and extent of soil-affected soils, how they are managed, some information about soil-affected soils in Nigeria, and I will conclude with some few recommendations on what I think we should do to address the problem of salinization. We all know what is happening with the demography of the planet. Within the last 100 years, the rate of population growth is unprecedented. And it is expected at the current rate, the global population will be more than 9 billion people by the year 2050. Which means we have to increase the amount of food we produce in order to sustain this population. For countries like ours, we are a food deficit nation. So globally, what we need is at least 50 to 70% increase in the amount of food being produced, so that the 9 billion people can be fed. By increase in food production has to be much more than this. And there is no gainsaying that the proper management of the soil is key to improving agricultural productivity. The soil has to be well managed for you to attain full potential for any given area. Soil salinity is increasingly becoming a problem in agricultural lands worldwide. It is the second most serious problem leading to land degradation after erosion. In fact, it causes soil erosion. So, with this challenge of feeding ourselves, we need to ensure that our soils are properly managed. The Millennium Development Goals, the 17 goals of the United Nations towards sustainable development, will likely be threatened if we allow salinization and soil degradation to continue. Soil salinity simply refers to accumulation of excessive amount of soluble salts in the soils and the absorption of sodium, which tends to damage the structure of the soils. So for the students, you have 3 classes of salt-affected soils. You have what we call saline soils, which have excessive amounts of dissolved salts. You have sodic soils, which have high amounts of sodium that bind onto the soil and destroy the structure. You also have soils that have a combination of these 2 properties. So you have a double jeopardy. And soils with these properties affect the soil physical, chemical, and biological properties, and also undermine the ability of the soil to provide its normal ecosystem service functions, such as filtration of pollutants, sequestration of carbon, and so on. Directly, the attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals, 6 of the goals, is directly related to maintaining good soil conditions. If we want to attain SDG 2, that is zero hunger, we need to improve the quality of land and soil so that we can achieve food security and improve nutrition. So this is directly related to management of soil. SDG 3, ensuring good health and well-being. Again, the soil, apart from agriculture, it does ecosystem services. All these pollutants and waste and so on are filtered and recycled through the soil. So it means SDG 2 is also directly related to soil. The same thing when you talk of clean water, that is SDG 6. To ensure clean water and sanitation, you need to maintain the quality of the soil. SDG 7, making cities and human settlements inclusive, self-resilient, and sustainable. They cannot be sustainable if you have degradation. Apart from agriculture, one of the problems of soil salinity, when you destroy structure, when the soil properties becomes destroyed, even buildings, you can have subsidence because of the poor structure. Even buildings and roads can be damaged. So this is directly related to soil. SDG 12, ensuring sustainable consumption and production patterns through making sure that chemical waste do not make its way into the air, water. Again, this has to do with the ecosystem service functions of the soil. Climate action. Soil is probably one of the largest sinks of carbon. So to address issues of climate change, the management of the soil is very, very critical. From sequestering carbon to agricultural practices on the soil that reduce methane emissions and so on. Then life on land. In fact, this is obvious. Protecting, restoring, and promoting sustainable use of ecosystems requires proper management of the soil. There are some proverbs that say, once beaten, twice shy. It's more dramatic in local languages. I know you have in different languages. In Hausa, there are such proverbs that when something happens to you once, it shouldn't happen to you twice. If it happens twice or 3 times, then you are becoming a fool. We have lessons to learn from history when it comes to problems of salinity and salinization. More than 240 years BC, early civilizations around Iraq, in the area called Mesopotamia, thrived on agriculture and eventually had to relocate. The civilization were destroyed there because of problems of soil salinity. This happened between the period 2,400 years to 1,700 years BC. But still, there was a second episode. The first episode happened around southern Iraq. There was a second episode around central Iraq between 1,200 to 900 years BC, even though it wasn't as serious as the first episode. And again, there was a third, east of Baghdad, after 120 AD. Also in other parts of the world, ancient civilizations were destroyed because they could not sustain themselves agriculturally as a result of salinization. There was civilization in Sumeria, in the Indus plains of present Pakistan and India, in Peru, all who had their civilizations, their livelihoods destroyed because they could not manage their soils as a result of wrong practices. So I think the theme of this year's World Soil Day is quite apt. And also the attention is going to bring on the matter for the next 1 year will hopefully ginger governments, institutions, and relevant stakeholders to take the necessary action to ensure that salinization is addressed so that food production can be improved by improving the productivity of soils. So what are the causes of salinization? There are mainly two groups. One are called the natural causes, which can occur anywhere, but are more particularly rampant in arid and semi-arid areas and in coastal swamps. But also they can occur in other places depending on the nature of the parent materials, the climate, and so on. There is also what is called secondary salinization or human-induced salinization, and this is as a result of human activities, mainly agricultural practices. We saw the very excellent drama on the use of or misuse of fertilizers, poor drainage on agricultural lands, removal of deep-rooted plants, which hinders infiltration of water that leaches soils, pumping of groundwater, salty groundwater for irrigation, use of salty water, especially in coastal areas, to do irrigation. These are all human activities that tend to salinize the soils. About 20 years ago, I was involved in a survey with the Federal Department of Land Resources in Kadawa area, and we took some measurements on soil salinity, solidity, and so on. And also we administered some questionnaires to some farmers to understand some of the practices they were doing. And even at that time, 20 years ago, many of the parts of the lands had patches of salt, patches of areas with solidity, abandoned areas, and so on. One key thing that was obvious to us was that the farmers were planting on their field drains all over the place. And their reason was, one, they want to expand the size of their farm, but also if they leave the field drains uncropped, the cattle headers will pass with their cattle, and in the process they will damage their crops. But then this brought more serious, more long-term problems to the area. So globally, what is the distribution of soil affected soils? You will see so many different figures. There are varied estimates. For example, Sahara, in the paper published this year, gave an estimate of about 7,300 sorry, that should be million hectares. Because what he gave was there was every day on the average 2,000 hectares were being lost or abandoned as a result of salinization. While Moroto, during the dialogue a few weeks ago, estimated that about 1 million hectares annually were lost to salt accumulation. So you can see even from these two, there are two variations. Sorry. The first one is 730,000 hectares lost annually. The second one, 1 million hectares lost annually. Moroto estimated a decline of 20 to 40 million hectares annually due to salt accumulation. Zaman et al. In 2018 did some
pH and ESP and harmonizing the depths, the 0 to 30 and 30 to 100, and that is what actually did. So For Nigeria, these were our input data for predicting, trying to look at the distribution and extent of salinity in Nigeria. And we were able to get some data from profile data, from 0 to 100, and for EC, for pH, for ESP, and the rest. And these data were harmonized, which I'm going to show you later, combined with remote sense data from climate, land use, soil map, DEM, and all other geology and all the hydrology were all collected together, and were able to harmonize them. But to use this, there's need for harmonization. And the harmonization process requires all the different measurements of these parameters to be put into a global framework whereby whatever correction, because we assume that some use some extraction, some use different extraction. So based on some of sketchy information we were able to get, we were able to do some harmonization of this parameter. And that actually, to a large extent, affected some of the results. And that's going to be part of my recommendation later. So this is harmonization process using multiplying factor to harmonize using different soil extraction matrix ratio and using different based on different references. But for those of us that have problem of we don't even know which one we are using for the extraction, FAO had this modification for us where we can use soil texture to harmonize our data, and basically this is what we use in Nigeria. These are the tools that were used for the modeling, the RStudio, and different tools, packages there were used. Soil assessment was this developed by Umutu, Chris, and a number of them were combined for different input, different activities. For harmonization, this was used. For spatial modeling, this was used. For classification of sort problem, this package was used. And this is one of the benefits of R. R can use more than 10,000, 20,000 packages are there, and still counting. There's no limit to what capacity of analysis you can use in our environment. So these are the tools that were used, QGIS and all these ILWIs, they were all used in the modeling. Yeah, just trying to show the power of R. And I said more than 10,000 packages are in R. More than 10,000, and it's still building up. More people, if you have a program to solve any problem, you can still link it to R. Anybody can develop program and standardize and link it and solve the problem and link it to R. This is the RStudio environment that we use. These are the predictors that were classified using the remote sense data, and some of them are national maps, national soil information that we have. This is harmonization of the predictors. You know, we have so many predictors, so many covariants. We have to do what we call collinearity tests, removing collinearity using principal component analysis, so that we can only use covariants that contribute to the IS, that contribute the IS to the parameter that we are measuring. And that is the reason why we have to use principal component analysis to do that. From the results, these are our live results from Nigeria. This is our boundary. This is the histogram of the frequency, the distribution of the data that we use. This one I think is for pH. This is for, I'm not saying my ESP, and I think this is for EC. These are the boundary. Anything outside this boundary, the program will omit them because they are almost going to the extreme. All right. Now, after running several models, this is the variogram model, the fitted model for each one of the parameters. We have for EC, for pH, and also for ESP. This is the fitted model, variogram model that we are able to produce for Nigeria, for the data set we use. Now, this is uncertainty maps for each one of them to tell us how reliable our prediction is. And this is the one-to-one plot of the prediction. You can see it is almost as outside 1 or 2 points. This for electrical conductivity is almost 98% accuracy, you know, in for the prediction. And if you look at, I think this should be pH or ESP, you know, because I'm not seeing where. But apart from 1 or 2 points that is outside that straight line, you will see that for the 3 parameters, there is none of them that was less than 95% in the accuracy prediction. Now, I want to show us the map that we produced from the exercise. And like I said, it's a work in progress. We were able to get for, okay, I'm presenting for 30 to 100 centimeter. You can see that based on our previous map that we already have, you see all the southern states, even up to the middle belt. But the interesting thing now is that Sokoto area is developing acidity because it's having low pH. It's developing low acidity, while areas from Kano, some part of Kaduna, maybe because of Kadawa and the rest that are there, and northeast are developing high pH, which is likely tending towards salinity. But the south is tending towards acidity, while from part of the middle belt to northwest and northeast is turning saline. All right, this is the uncertainty map of that. This is the, you see, this red show low. Most of our prediction is high. The certainty is high. That is why you see most of them are red, because our prediction is good. Now, I want to show us the ESP. ESP also show an interesting trend, which also follow. You can see that we're having high ESP around Mambila area and Central. But also, to also corroborate what Prof presented with the Southwest, is also developing saline situation, and is getting interesting from the work of, I think, Kayode et al. That Professor Jibrin presented. Southwest, that we don't know to be having salinity, is also developing salinity. Now, this is the prediction certainty map. Now, this is EC. If you see EC, you see that some area is also having low EC, and very few areas having high EC. Then this is the certainty. But for now, I will just present only one map for the salt affected area for 30 to 100 centimeter depth data that we use. And this is it. This is the final salt result. And from this result, you see that from Zamfara area, Kaduna area, I think it is getting to Zaria area, Kadawa area, to some part of Kano, and a lot of part of which state it is. I think that is Kaduna. Most part of Kaduna, they are already developing salt, and a pocket of them in northeast. You can see a number of them, and a lot from the Mambila Plateau area. They are also developing. These areas are also developing high salting. But the interesting side is this is almost equal. This is almost like what Professor Jubri presented for the other work of Kayode et al. In the southwest. You know, they are also showing that they are developing silent situation, which the representative of the Honorable Minister will have to note that just like Prof recommended, there's need for us, with collaboration with NISS and the rest, to see how we can have a more comprehensive analysis, a more comprehensive survey of salt affected area that will be more involving and more comprehensive. And secondly, there is need for us to begin to gather all information that is isolated in different places. Some students, I know I examined a number of students in BUK that did work on the Kano water project. You know, there are a lot of information they gather, there are a lot of maps that were produced. Those information are always not available when we want to do national data, not national mapping like this. We are already suggesting for us to have a central information data, soil information system where all soil activity, soil experiments, soil analysis, soil survey data can be archived and can be accessible for this kind of assignment. I want to finally acknowledge Professor V.O. Chude for support for this project, FAO, GSP, and my colleagues that we did this work together, Professor Ande, Oluwatosin in NISS. For this, these are the three of us that did this work, myself, Professor Ande, and Oluwatosin. It was another work that Obi joined us. But it's been a good encouragement for us not to be left behind in the League of Nations when they are collating a world map. We have contributed to soil organic carbon, we have contributed to soil salinity, we have also contributed to soil carbon sequestration, global carbon sequestration map, and Nigeria has not been lacking. I want to appreciate them. This was, and coincidentally, this work was done when most of us are in lockdown. It was a lot of work, a lot of sacrifice, because we were in lockdown when this work was done. We had more than 40 hours of intensive lecture for the training. Thereafter, it took more than 3-4 months to develop this map, especially looking for data, trying to harmonize the data, trying to produce the model, trying to run the model, trying to produce the map. It's a lot of sacrifices, especially for those of us that did the work. Because in the lockdown, some of us are sleeping while some of us are working. Thank you very much.
So with due permission from the registrar, we go straight to take invited lecture 2, and that is going to be given by Mr. Monday Sunday Adiara. Mr. Sunday Adiara, please can you be upstanding for recognition? Please can you be So I take a brief citation on Mr. Adiara, Mr. Monday Sunday Adiara. Mr. Monday Sunday Adiara is a staff of Nigeria Institute of Soil Science. He is a scholar a scientist, and a researcher. He holds a bachelor degree in agriculture and major in agronomic soil science. He also holds a master's degree in soil science and land resources management with research interests in soil physics and agrohydrology. He did a short PhD course
called Duly Observe. My name is Mwanda Dia. I am presenting on sustainable management of soil-affected soils.
The sustainability of global soils is non-negotiable. And soil plays a key role in most of the SDGs that is intended to drive global sustainability and make human life a meaning on the planet. So based on that, it is a far cry that disease outbreak and increase in malnutrition, constant climatic change, and variabilities in the ecosystem properties has led to the downturn that we are sitting today to talk about, which is the soil salinity. Salinity not only reduces food production, but causes drought, which has deteriorated global environment and has caused hunger in many lands, caused migration in parts of North Africa and all over the world through its hazards, which after drought, the salt is left behind in the soil. Please, can you permit me to move this thing right here a bit? I cannot see that PowerPoint. So that thank you so much. I cannot see. Exactly. So if there's another mic, I can use it. Okay. So about 27.3 million United States dollars has been wasted on a reclamation strategy of soils that have been polluted and destroyed by salt. FAO 2001 gave that statistics. More than 50% global migration has been linked to environmental problems that have been get by drought, with soil salinity outputs being the consequences. And International Institute of Applied System Analysis 2019 gave that view. About 50 to 80% the global domestic and agricultural water has become saline due to the downstream pollution from spills of saline and sodic environments. FAO 2021. More than 70% the number of times human-animal ill health has been compounded through the consumption of water and crops with spills of residues of saline and sodic environment. Applied System Analysis Institute in 2019 also gave that view. The list of human-animal ecosystem nexus degradation with the impact of salinization is inexhaustive. You can't exhaust it in one gathering. And this is heartbroken to humanity development and to the sustainability of the globe that we made, because we will go and leave the globe for the next generations to come. So building on this, there could be increase in malnutrition, and there could be increase in cycle unrest, and also increase in conflicts between nations, because if you keep migrating, then you go to another land to occupy, and that will cause problem. If our planet is destroyed, where do we go? That will be pains. So to stop these pains, FAO have mapped the whole world to show hotspots of salinity influence, so that we can make a sustainable drive to remediate that. I think their data was done through soil sampling from 30 cm to 100 cm down the soil profile. And Africa is not an exception in this influence. And the stress here is that Africa, being already one of the dry continents, may suffer more on this drive in accumulation of the saline nature of global soils, because we have a dry nature, and anything that abbreviates climatic change gives us more pains, more hunger, more malnutrition, and we become poor. Objective of the presentation. The study will present sustainable strategies, policies, and management guidelines for improvement of soil physical, chemical, and biological functionality to combat soil salinization. Evaluate status of Nigerian soil salinity at present with projection done at 3 years interval for hazard mapping and land monitoring systems. Present experimental result output of salinity status of soils in Nigeria. Evaluate and present sustainable approaches for management and reclamation of soil-affected soils. What really is soil salinization? I think I will not go in depth there. The two professors have done justice to that aspect, but I will just touch a few lines there. A soil that is affected by soil. And scientists gave that view in 2007, and also x-rayed that last year to see what Placentis said. What really happens in saline environments, the two professors said, generally just that the water in the soil or the nutrients in the soil do not get to the crop or do not get to the vegetation, or the soil itself can use it because there exists a matrix potential, and this potential creates an environment where even if there's water in the soil, but this water is deficient. So the two professors have also said this. So the end point of salinization is what I'm going to deal here. It is desertification, contaminated land. So it means if we leave our land to get more saline, then we will wake up one day and the environment has turned to desert and you start migration. And there are a lot of desert around Africa already. So we need to make a sustainable drive, and which most studies have done that. Salt in the plant system causes a lot of destruction to the plant. The plant cells is denatured, get shrink, try to readjust to get the soil in, and at the point it could not or it cannot, and wilt and die. And at that point you don't have any crop, and you can go sustainable because you don't have money, and your standard of living will go down. Okay, so the mechanism that really happens in saline soil is really painful if you look at it, x-raying the plant system. The DNA of the plants at the point get rearranged, get deleted, get addition, and the plant cells keep stressed until the point that the plant dies. And the soil biota also keeps stressed for the one that cannot be tolerant to the soil and the die off. And that's a far cry too to sustainable development. For us to solve this problem, to stop the wrong work, because it's the wrong work, then what do we need to do? The two professors have talked about agroforestry. Agroforestry will not only remediate or reduce salinity nature of the soil, but will contribute to the climate modulation strategy while in turn regulating the environmental activities. Application of compost. Compost also is a powerful tool to remediate the impact of salinization in soils. Biochar technology, which we will x-ray later, is also a great technology that can be used to remediate soil toxicity. Leaching of the soil is also critical for us to reduce the soil toxicity in the soil. Surface flushing is also critical for us to reduce the toxic nature of the soil content in the soil. Application of fertilizer at the right dose at the right time is also important for us to reduce the salinity in the soil. If we look at a management system that can be adapted to solve the global salinity problem, because we are looking for a way we can go sustainable, and sustainability is a key word for the future generations unborn, for them to enjoy what you have enjoyed today. So I've stressed on agroforestry. Here I'm going to stress on genetic engineering. Genetic engineering is a key tool to combat salinization, because you move into the lab, you change the sequence of the DNA of the plant, infuse what you don't want, infuse what you want, remove what you don't want from the DNA, and recombine it and send it to the lab and grow it back to the field. By so doing, we will have good number of crops that will withstand the drought, that will withstand the toxic salinity in global soils, and thereby moving towards the direction of sustainability that we are driving at. For you to go sustainable in terms of salinity management, you need to have a key knowledge of the crop you're planting. There are crops that are toxic, that can resist toxicity to a certain limit of the toxicity nature in the soil. So the knowledge of these crops will guide you, so that if you are going on a program for you to cultivate on a salty soil or land, then you really know what kind of crop you need to plant, and what crop you need not plant in such an environment. Why the concept of sustainability? Why do we need sustainability? With the concept of sustainability, sustainable development, agricultural practices and environmental management should encompass conservation and restoration strategies. The efficient use of natural resources and stable food production to satisfy the needs of both present and future generations. So the key word you have there is that if we take care of the environment, agroforestry, organic amendments, you control your source of irrigation water, you drain land that is locked so that it doesn't form salt, you will have a sustainable agriculture. And sustainable agriculture will give increased standard of living, will bring in exports, will be able to export and get money. The farmer will be able to smile and have enough food. And the overall benefits is that there will be something, the soil will be left conserved for the people that have not yet come to this planet, which definitely they will come. So to look at a practical remediation, Professor Habadi in Jabouton University in Tunisia, and in collaboration with the team, X-rayed a remediation strategy using leaching. Soil types, sand, silt, clay, were coated with mud, and the salinity of sodium chloride was induced in the mixture, and leaching procedure using a distilled and a pure water was carried out. So at the end of the experiment, we observed that the leaching process really helped to desalinize or cut down the increasing trend in the salinity content in the soil that was X-rayed. And this shows the output results of the experimentation. And also to practically look at measures to cut down salinity in Africa and also in Nigeria. A study was conducted in Abuja using the University of Abuja like a ground for that study. where 20 experimental stations were X-rayed, samples were taken to the laboratory to analyze for the EC of the soil and the physical properties of the soil. So the soil was found to be moderately to some point where high in the electric conductivity, which is the salinity of the soil. So to target that, a biochar technology using 70 grams of biochar, because it was a laboratory simulation experiment. So it was applied, and also leaching was applied. The leaching was applied so that we can compare results with what Prof. Abadi did in Tunisia. So the result shows productive ability of this 2 remediation program to be able to cut down the salinity content of the soil. So then a projection was done, assuming the environment or the point where the experiment was done was not remediated, or there was no remediation program carried out in that location, which is the amount of soil that was induced into the setup. So this is the case. Then in 3 years' time, with the frequency in climate change, with the frequency in environmental destruction, with the frequency in human attitude towards the management of the natural resources which nature plays, we will have this. And at this point, you see the number of vegetation here has been reduced, and this is moving towards desertification. It means the crop production there will go down. It means the animal feeding there will go down. It means the human survival there will be hampered, will be deteriorated, because you will have less land to plant, and you will have less crop to eat, and you will have a toxic environment that cannot stand the test of sustainability that we talk about. So the study was done as a 20 experimental station. It was done in a stratified way. So it was segmented into 4 stratum, and this is what the stratum 3 gives, and this is the endpoint of if its remediation is not taken and it's left to run the way it is for 3 years. So that is really a far cry, and thank God something was done to remediate that. This result outputs here is also a chart that was developed there that gives the efficacy or the ability or the potentials of the remediation program and in the biochar technology, and also the leaching using distill and pure water to cut down the salinity content of that soil. So this map here, they have talked about it more and more. Just giving the index of what salinity looks like in Africa and every part of the world in millions per hectare. So it's everywhere. And also a Nigerian map was looked into. We know that there's salinity builds up in the delta, builds up in places around the coastal region because of the influx of soil water from the sea, from the river, and from the ocean. So this is the result outputs that we get from X-raying that. Just look at Nigerian map, and we look at the Landsite platform. Then we downloaded some data from there, and we compare with existing work to see what the country will look like, because the experiment we did is for one region. So what NISS is doing, NISS has gone far, NISS has mounted programs on fighting problematic soils in Nigeria. We have done so many works, remediating, educating, enlightening, advising, and so much has been done on that angle. Now, what can we do to remediate the increased frequency in soil salinity in Africa or in the global scene? So adequate water management by irrigation and drainage, adapt to the changes in the climate, apply the right soil fertilizer material to the right dose to the right soil, and that can only be achieved through soil testing program that was demonstrated in the drama. And also grow soil tolerant crops and a knowledge of groundwater depth is also important so that it doesn't bring up the salinity down the profile to the up zone that is within the plant root reach. And evaluate soil physical and chemical parameters. So ethical release of industrial waste through consideration of environmental protection policies is also important, so that we do not just work like that without putting laws that have been in place on ground. So the policy, I'm just going to summarize that. The policy guidelines that we could adapt so that we cut down the salinity of nature in our zone is that we need to do intensive ecological monitoring with GIS. The last speaker talked about GIS, importance of GIS, so we'll apply that, apply remote sensing and other real-time precision tools that can be used for hazard mapping and can also be used for productivity scoring of what is going on in the environment. So increase evaluation of socio-economic issues with detailed analysis of causal relationship between natural and agricultural factors is also important. Sustainable management of soil is important. Application of fertilizer, amendment, voucher, organic manure, agroforestry, reforestation, afforestation is also important, so that we can have sustainable soil to feed and to live with. So conclusion, it is imperative that every patch of land must be used in accordance with the best suited purpose and with the best transformation dealing with the adaptive, feasible and sustainable techniques. We need to use land according to what the land has been planned to use. That calls for the need for land planning, which is critical for soil usage for a specific purpose. So integrated and sustainable strategy is critical in order to close the gap in the wide range of soil salinity which has been reported globally. And it is also a key in attaining some of the major SDG, SDG 3, zero hunger, SDG 8, decent work, and economic growth, SDG 15, live on land. So it is critical that soil regulation policies be adhered to, and which is a key to re-unlock the nation's environmental, climatic, including agricultural prosperity, while boosting the global image of the country as a great African face, which it has been for long. And going integrated will not only revive the dying state of global environment, but may also result in better agricultural output, increase human animal nutrition, boost in national and international relations, including being a gearing factor for economic development. Thank you so much for listening.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Monday Adia. Can we put our hands together for Mr. Monday Adia? So we go straight to the question and answer session. It is a dialogue, and dialogue is two ways. So we've taken the presentations from the lead speaker, from the invited paper 1, invited paper 2, and so we want to go into the question and answer session. Please, when you take the mic, you tell us your name, and then your organization or institution, and then you go straight to the question. Please do not give another lecture before the question. Just go straight to the question. We're trying to redeem time. And we'll also plead that you can also, we'll give out some piece of papers, and you can also write your details, your name, organization, and you also write your comments or questions, and then the speakers will pass them to the speakers, and then they will address them all. Anyone that has to do with policy issue, the Registrar and Chief Executive Officer of NISS is here to address. The Vice Chairman of Council of NISS is also here. The Vice President of Soil Science Society of Nigeria, they're all here, so we are complete here. The policy makers, the representative of the minister is here, so it's a complete house. So the floor is open for questions and comments, but not another lecture, please. So just put up your hands and the mic will come to you, the paper will come to you. Yes, please. Please, one mic, the other hand. Yeah, please also give him a piece of paper to put down the questions. So we want to have all the questions, all the comments properly documented.
Thank you, sir. Number 1.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so we'll take 6 at a go, and then the presenters will respond, and then we'll go for another round. So that is number 1. Any other? Number 2. Any? Okay, we have 2 for now. So please go on.
Thank you, the organizers. Thank you, the presenters and the invited individuals. I'm thanking you again, the presenters, for a wonderful display. And the World Day is hot soil salinization, and then both soil productivity. And I want to just add, I'm Dr. Chris Ibozirike from Imo State University. I'm a certified environmental specialist. I just want to draw my question from the last presenter. I'm trying to know if we have large area in Nigeria that is affected by salt formation, that is salinization. If we have any halophytes, that is salt-tolerant crops that we have developed. That is, I'm trying to ask if we have a new dimension or a new adaptive method to coping the effect of salinization. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thanks. Question is well taken. Number the second.
Please, I'm Professor Jesse Muka from the University of Abuja and NISS here.